Okay, let's jump right in. Gold just blasted past $4,300 an ounce. I mean, that's its biggest weekly surge in history.
It's staggering.
Yeah.
And silver. It didn't just nudge up. It rocketed beyond $53,
Yeah.
really shaking the London metals market to its core.
Yeah, it feels like more than just, another inflation blip. This seems like a global, historic shift happening right now.
And the analysis we're looking at is pretty blunt about what happens next.
Yeah.
Every single time credit expands like this and then collapses,
Yeah.
gold basically goes to infinity relative to that credit.
Infinity.
Yeah, and there's apparently no exception this time around. The really chilling part, is experts like Michael Oliver are pointing out, is that this time it is global.
Yeah.
It hits every major currency. There's sort of nowhere left to hide your wealth.
Infinity in terms of okay, that sounds dramatic, almost unbelievable. We need to unpack what that actually means for you listening.
Right.
We're talking silver closing above $50 an ounce, that critical level. Market watchers are calling it the point of no return. So our mission today is really to explore why this feels so inevitable now. What does real money even mean in this context? And what are the signals, technical and fundamental, showing this great monetary reset is actually underway?
Exactly. We need to break down those triggers, look at the history. There's historical context here that's often missed, and tackle that basic error the mainstream media keeps making about gold and silver.
Yeah, understanding this feels pretty crucial right now.
It really does.
So if you want to stay ahead of these huge economic shifts, really grasp the context behind these, frankly, shocking price moves, and get that knowledge advantage. Make sure you hit subscribe now. Subscribe Credfia.
Okay.
Let's dig into the structure of this crisis then. Why this surge? Why now? What's the real cause here, beyond just, the latest inflation report?
Well, the core issue, the absolute bedrock, is confidence. It's fragile. It's the only thing holding the whole global financial system together.
Right, just belief.
Just belief.
Mhm.
And the moment that confidence collapses, truly collapses, currencies crumble. And that's when real money, physical gold and silver, tends to rise from the ashes.
We're watching the end of the credit illusion play out fast.
A credit illusion. Okay, but if inflation is just prices going up, why is this different? What does it mean for gold to go to infinity against the dollar? That still sounds extreme.
It is extreme, but it means the price has no real ceiling because the thing you're measuring it in the dollar, the euro, is heading towards zero value itself.
Okay. The denominator is collapsing.
Precisely. Rafi Farber explains this really well. He says hyperinflation isn't just a number, like 50% a month or whatever. It's a switch in mindset.
A psychological shift.
Exactly. It's the day people wake up and just stop trusting credit. They realize it's essentially worthless paper. And that realization doesn't creep up on you. It tends to explode overnight. Demand for actual tangible money just goes vertical.
So this price action isn't just hedge funds speculating. It's a structural awakening almost.
That's the argument. But let me push back a bit. Central banks, the biggest players, they're hoarding gold. Couldn't they just be creating the next bubble? Doesn't that undermine the real money idea if the big institutions are just playing the market?
That's a really important question. And the answer, according to the sources, is no. Because central banks are acting like the smart money here. They understand the fundamental difference. Since 2008, and especially the last few years, they've been buying physical gold like never before.
Why? Because they don't trust their own system.
Basically, yes. They're losing faith in their own instruments, their own government bonds, their debt. They aren't buying gold as a speculative punt. They're swapping liabilities, which is what credit and bonds are, for a final settlement asset, money, gold.
Wow. So it's almost like an admission, isn't it, that their paper promises are becoming unreliable.
Precisely. And that leads us right back to that huge mistake the mainstream media keeps making. They call gold an inflation hedge.
Or a safe haven asset.
Right. Or a safe haven. But they're fundamentally missing the point. They treat it like some kind of, tradition or a historical quirk.
But the reality is.
The reality is that gold is money right now. Everything else, dollars, euros, yen, that's all just credit built on top of that money foundation. Credit is a promise to pay. Money is the payment. It's final settlement.
Okay, so when you debase the credit, when you print more dollars,
the value has to flow somewhere. It flows back into the money itself, the gold and silver. The market is doing what Wall Street calls the debasement trade.
Which means?
It's just jargon for actively dumping credit instruments, like dollars or bonds, to get your hands on the actual money, gold and silver that isn't being inflated away. That's why Farber suggests that thought experiment.
Right, the substitution thing.
Yeah. Anytime you hear dollar or money in finance news, just mentally swap in gold or silver. Suddenly it clicks into place. They aren't just hedges, they're the honest yardstick for value.
That really is a total mindset shift for most people listening. Look, if you appreciate getting these complex ideas connected like this, understanding this crucial difference between credit and real money, please take a second right now and hit subscribe. Your support helps us keep bringing these insights to you.
Definitely.
Ah,
Okay, so we've talked philosophy, confidence.
yeah.
Let's pivot to the proof, the charts. If gold is money, the market action must be showing it, right?
Okay.
Especially with silver lately.
Yes, let's look at the technicals.
Okay, the technical picture is frankly explosive,
Yeah.
especially for silver. We mentioned that $50 line. Lynette Zang gives some great context here. $50 wasn't just a nice round number.
No.
No,
Yeah.
it was a massive resistance ceiling. For years, institutions piled up huge sell contracts right at that level. So closing decisively above $50 means all those sell orders got chewed through. They're gone.
So the market basically absorbed years of pent-up selling pressure at that key level. What happens next, technically?
The floodgates tend to open. You get two big things happening at once. First, anyone shorting silver, betting it wouldn't break $50, they're now forced to buy back to cover their losses. That's a short squeeze.
Adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. And second, you trigger huge buy orders from mainstream institutional funds. They have rules, mandates. Once a major resistance like $50 is clearly broken, they have to get in. That's when the panic money starts chasing the smart money.
And Zhang mentioned seeing some kind of rare chart pattern, too, a double cup formation. Why is that significant?
Yeah, a cup formation usually shows a long period where price consolidates, builds energy. A double cup formation, which she sees, suggests an incredible amount of suppressed energy built up over a very long time.
Okay.
When a pattern like that finally breaks upwards, like we're seeing now with silver smashing through $53, it signals that a much, much higher price is likely coming, and probably quite quickly. It confirmed we're in what they call a melt-up phase.
And Wall Street, are they finally catching on? Are analysts talking about this?
Oh, they're not just whispering anymore. They're talking about debasement openly now. You've got HSBC, Bank of America, they're raising their price targets, telling clients about the debasement trade.
So they're basically saying, do what the central banks have been doing.
Pretty much. We're seeing analysts seriously looking at $6,000 for gold and maybe $100 for silver in this next leg up. The market's rising way faster relative to almost everything else. That's the classic sign of real money being repriced against failing credit. Okay, let's zoom in on the metal most people can actually get their hands on. Silver, the people's money, sometimes called poor man's gold. Why is silver so important in this reset scenario, especially if, say, digital payment systems get shaky? Silver is all about accessibility. It's just far easier to buy in smaller amounts, easier to store, and crucially easier to actually use for trade than gold is. Think small transactions, local barters, maintaining liquidity if the ATMs or digital networks go down.
Makes sense. But here's the thing. Even after surging past $53, silver is still structurally incredibly undervalued compared to gold. How undervalued? What's the metric?
It's the gold to silver ratio. Right now, it takes about 80 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. Historically, especially going back to like the U.S. constitutional standard, that ratio is much closer to 15 to 1.
Wow, 80 versus 15, that's a huge gap. Why?
It goes back to an act in 1873, the Coinage Act, often called the Crime Against Silver.
Okay, crime against silver, explain that quickly. How did it kill demand?
It basically put the U.S. solely onto a gold standard and demonetized silver. Before that, the dollar was actually defined in grains of silver. By stripping silver of its official role as money, the act destroyed the monetary demand for it. All that was left was industrial demand.
Ah, I see. So the price collapsed relative to gold because it wasn't officially money anymore.
Exactly. But now, if monetary demand comes flooding back, which is what seems to be happening as people lose faith in fiat, that 80 to 1 ratio looks completely unsustainable. It has to collapse back towards its historical average. And that means a potentially massive repricing upwards for silver relative to gold.
So holding silver isn't just about hedging. It's almost like preparing for friction in the system. What practical reasons does someone like Farber give for actually stacking physical silver?
He gives two main, very practical reasons. First, local liquidity. He calls it having enough silver to act as CPR for the monetary system.
CPR.
Yeah, meaning if credit freezes up in your town, if the digital systems glitch, you need something physical to buy bread, pay for services. Silver fills that gap. It's prepped for, the division of labor potentially breaking down temporarily.
Okay, that's the just-in-case scenario. What's the second reason?
The second is more profit-driven. He sees any extra silver beyond that basic liquidity stash as a lever, because if or when that ratio snaps back towards 15-1.
You can trade your silver for way more gold than you could buy today.
Exactly. You use the historical distortion as leverage to acquire more gold during that ratio reversion spike.
That's a smart way to think about it, using the anomaly itself. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together for everyone listening. What we're seeing feels like a massive, once-in-a-generation global revaluation of wealth itself, driven by eroding confidence in shaky credit markets.
Yeah, and it means knowing this stuff, understanding the difference between credit and money,
Yeah.
it's just crucial right now. Lynette Zang links this directly to what's happening socially and politically, too.
How so?
Well, the extreme political division, the really high levels of distrust we see everywhere, that just further eats away at confidence. And confidence, remember, is the only thing holding this paper system together. Gold and silver, in this view, are the bridge. They're the physical anchor to get you from this potentially unstable currency reset into whatever stable system comes next.
It really boils down to that stark choice, doesn't it? Physical wealth versus paper promises. Ultimately, yes. When the dust finally settles from this transition, the big question the sources pose is this. Are you going to be left holding paper promises, bank account digits representing rapidly collapsing credit, or did you secure real, tangible wealth before the reset hit full force? Because the number of dollars won't matter then.
No, it'll only matter how much real, uninflatable wealth you managed to preserve before everything changed.
That really is the definition of securing your knowledge advantage. If you want to truly understand how to navigate this melt-up, how to position yourself for this historic financial shift, make sure you are subscribed. Hit that button now, subscribe Credvia, and stay ahead of the reset.